Hello everyone and welcome back. Have you ever wondered what makes political speeches just so captivating? Well, as a voice coach, that's what we're going to be looking at today by dissecting some of the best, in my opinion, political speeches throughout history. We're going to start with Martin Luther King's speech, I Have a Dream, delivered on the Washington March 1963. This is really a masterclass for captivation and emotional imagery in one speech.
I have a dream that one day, down in Alabama, with its vicious racists, with its governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification.
How does he do this then? Well, we have repetition first off. The repetition of I Have a Dream, otherwise known as anaphora, really gives us this rhythm, this sense of steadiness as a speaker, that we are together, that we are rolling, that we are moving in some way.
I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted.
I don't think repetition is just to deliver a point, but actually it gives us this momentum, it gives us this drive, and it gives us almost like the beat of a drum, some sort of calling that we as an audience want to follow. Martin Luther King also has a really beautiful way of painting some vivid imagery. There's one thing to just state how someone feels or what the state of the world is, but to use imagery to enhance that is really something that can touch us in a different way.
Sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream.
You have various levels of understanding something as a listener. You have a cerebral level, which is to intellectually understand. And then you have the visceral level, which is your body feeling and understanding it. And I really believe that imagery is a key way into your whole body understanding and sensing the importance of a topic. Next, we're going to have a look at Winston Churchill's iconic speech, We Shall Fight on the Beaches. This speech, delivered in World War II, has a huge amount of strong language. And by strong language, of course, I don't mean swearing, but I mean this power, this assertiveness, this confidence behind his delivery. It's like, we shall never surrender, convey this sense of this is the decision and this is where we are going.
We shall fight.
This decisiveness and this assertion can also be heard in his spoken voice because it has a very strong, grounded sense when he is delivering it. Imagine if you deliver that phrase kind of in your head voice and sort of, we shall never surrender. It's going to be a pretty different impact on your audience. Winston Churchill also makes reference to moments of repetition through parallel phrases such as we shall fight at the beginning and the end of sentences. Having this again, like we said with Martin Luther King, has this element of this rhythmic drum that means we keep coming back to this point that's hopefully going to be somewhat motivational for the British people at that time to be listening to. Barack Obama's Yes We Can speech, delivered after the New Hampshire primary in 2008, is yet another iconic example. One thing I love about this speech is that Barack Obama uses a lot of inclusive language in the pronouns, using lots of we and our, as in he references the audience as a collective. It's not necessarily him preaching to people to follow, but it is that we are all a unison, all a collective speaking together.
Whether we are rich or poor, black or white, Latino or Asian, whether we hail from Iowa or New Hampshire, Nevada or South Carolina, we are ready to take this country in a fundamentally new direction.
That inclusion as an audience member gives us a sense of importance when we are listening, which is really going to help us with that active listening tool that ultimately will lead to us being actually affected by someone's words. I'd also argue that the phrase itself, yes we can, being one of optimism, one of hope, is one that people want to listen to. Many research has shown the effects of positive psychology and positive feedback having a great effect on productivity and of morale. So the idea of yes we can, rather than saying something like we don't have a choice, is going to have a really good uplifting impact on the audience in front of him.
Yes we can. It was sung by immigrants as they struck out from distant shores and pioneers who pushed westward against an unforgiving wilderness. Yes we can.
I then wanted to have a look at Greta Thunberg's UN climate action speech in 2019. As a very young climate activist, I think she does a fantastic job in this political speech.
I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you?
Greta absolutely does not shy away from the emotional drive behind the words that she is speaking to. We talk about it in acting as this connection to the text, and you can definitely tell that Greta's emotion, especially frustration and anger, come through when she's delivering these words. You can't help but feel what someone else is feeling when they are in front of you most of the time. If someone feels nervous, you probably feel nervous. If someone feels excited, you get a bit of that excitement back. It's just energy passing from one person to another. So as a speaker, if you are feeling a certain emotion when delivering these words, it's a good chance that your audience are going to pick up on that energy as well, which ultimately leads to a really good call to action.
The eyes of all future generations are upon you.
Which I actually think highlights the biggest thing that Greta does so well in the speech, the call to action. She isn't just stating or educating, she is urging people. She is really encouraging people, almost demanding people that the time is actually imminent to actually do something now, which is really hard to do when it comes to communication. Like I say a lot in these videos, it's one thing for me to give you these tips and advice, but for you to actually go out into the world and do something, it requires that visceral body understanding of things. Otherwise, we can just live in here and think it's all fine and not even remember that actually our whole body needs to be on board with what we're doing. So I think Greta does a fantastic job of that by bringing the emotion in, which is the body, and the call to action. Finally, let's have a look at Malala's United Nations speech in 2013. Malala makes a decision here to open with her personal story. And like I've mentioned in the other speakers, the idea of bringing one's own emotion, one's own story, one's own personality into a speech is always going to be probably an effective tool to an audience.
In Afghanistan, Taliban have banned girls like Sumaya from their education,
especially by terming it as a real story in itself. Ultimately, as human beings, we have been telling stories long before we knew anything else about building or about construction or about getting into the office on time. Stories are really what unites us, I believe, as human beings, and you see them everywhere. So it's a shame when someone has a speech, they tend to think it needs to be factual, or they tend to feel like it needs to really be to the point. You should always try to ask yourself, like Malala did, how can you incorporate a story into this? And that is, I promise you, going to be far more impactful than just listing statistics. Malala's subject, of course, helps with her speech as she appeals to universal issues such as education.
If you are serious about creating a safe and sustainable future for the children, then be serious about education.
Not only inspiring everyone to rally around for these common goals, but also, like Barack Obama did, really including the audience with her, as if it is up to all of us together to make some sort of change. Please actively listen to me while I am speaking to you. Ultimately, all of these speeches use some great rhetorical devices such as repetition, such as the use of pronouns, such as emotional delivery. But really, I think what builds them all together and what for me makes a speech so powerful is it getting me to actively listen to it? And I think the way you get an audience to actively listen is by incorporating cerebral, so the subject matter, the facts, the stats, but also the emotion, the rhythm in which you are speaking, the way your voice sits. It's like music. If you can unite people the way that they unite at a music concert, then they're going to leave that auditorium actually feeling inspired, actually wanting to do something, actually wanting to change their life. You have the power to do that. You just have to be as intentional as possible with your delivery and with your structure. And that's it. So I hope that analysing some of these speeches has given you something to think about and hopefully something that you can transfer into your day-to-day communication. If you do have any questions or thoughts, please drop a comment below. And if you enjoy videos like this, please don't forget to press subscribe, share it with a friend, and hit the thumbs up button. I'd love to hear any more suggestions of videos that you would like to see me do. And I hope you have a fantastic week. I'll see you next time. Bye.